I skipped the family cruise after being asked to buy my own ticket. Now they're upset. They can't reach me. I'm Lily, 25 years old, female, and I don't think my parents ever really saw me. Not as a person anyway, just the other kid. The one they could point to when bragging about how well James turned out. James is my older brother, 28. And somehow the sun rises and sets around him, even when he's unemployed, living rent-free in their basement and dodging adulthood like it's a sport. Growing up, it was always the same script. James brings home a C in math. He's creative. I bring home an A minus. You could do better if you stopped being so sensitive. He gets caught sneaking beer into the house at 17. Boys will be boys. I forget to unload the dishwasher once. Ungrateful attitude. It was like watching a two-person play where only one actor ever got applause. When I left for college, I thought maybe things would even out. Distance, independence, maybe they'd start seeing me for me. Instead, every phone call turned into a recap of James's life updates. He was figuring things out, in between opportunities, looking for the right fit. Meanwhile, I worked part-time jobs, graduated early, and landed a decent marketing job straight out of school. No one noticed. The one time I called to tell them I'd gotten promoted, Mom literally said, "That's nice, honey. James is thinking about starting a podcast." He's still thinking about that podcast, by the way, 3 years later. They live 20 minutes away, but I might as well be in another country. They'll host Sunday dinners for family, but I'm always invited last, after James has confirmed he's free. My birthday dinner got canceled once because James wasn't feeling up to it. He had a hangover. I know it sounds petty, but when you grow up constantly being the backup singer in your own life, the resentment builds up like mold. I started noticing the tiny, quiet humiliations. The way Dad would only ask about my boyfriend, Tyler, if James was in the room. Is he treating you right? Like it was some kind of performance for my brother's approval? Or how Mom once told me, "You've always been so independent, James just needs us more." That's the phrase that kills me every time. He needs us more. As if my competence made me unworthy of care. So when they announced the big family cruise for Thanksgiving, 7 days in the Caribbean, all expenses paid, I almost let myself believe this was the olive branch. A chance to feel included for once. Then came Mom's text. "We'll cover James's ticket. You can book your own, through the travel site. Same cabin type." I remember just staring at my phone, rereading it until the words blurred. Not angry yet, just hollow. Same cabin type. Not same treatment, not same daughter. That's when something inside me shifted. I didn't explode, didn't argue. I smiled, told them I'd book my ticket soon. But that night, sitting on my couch with Tyler beside me, I decided I wasn't going anywhere near that damn ship. I didn't tell them I wasn't going. Not yet. I just nodded along through the planning text, the group chat updates, the endless back and forth about outfits and excursions. Mom sent me an itinerary that might as well have been James's baby album. James wants to do the snorkeling trip. James said we should all eat dinner together every night. James picked the cabin deck. Like this wasn't supposed to be a family thing. It was a vacation built around their golden boy's whims. I smiled at the messages and typed back generic things like, "Sounds great," or "Can't wait." Meanwhile, I quietly accepted an invitation from Tyler's mom to spend Thanksgiving with them. His family lives 2 towns over, in this big, slightly chaotic house where someone's always laughing, and his mom insists on sending you home with leftovers you didn't ask for. It's warm there. Messy but real. Not like home, where the air always feels like it's being monitored for emotional misbehavior. About a week before the cruise, I stopped by my parents' place to drop off some old mail that had been sent to their address. James was on the couch, shirtless, surrounded by takeout boxes and empty beer cans, yelling at some game on TV. Mom was in the kitchen, humming like she was living in a perfume commercial. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Oh, Lily," Mom smiled too wide. "We were just talking about the cruise. James said he might invite Sarah. You remember her? The girl from the bar he met last month?" James smirked, eyes still glued to the TV. "Yeah, she's chill, not high maintenance like some people." Mom laughed. Dad grunted. I froze. There it was again, the family script, the jab that goes unchallenged because he's joking. I swallowed hard and forced a smile. "Cool. Well, hope she likes boat food." Mom frowned, already picking up on the tone. "Don't start, Lily. We want this trip to be nice. No negativity. No negativity, meaning no feelings that make them uncomfortable." I could feel the words clawing their way up my throat, all the things I've wanted to scream for years. But instead, I just handed Dad the mail and said, "I'll see you guys before the trip." That night, Tyler asked if I was sure about skipping it. "They'll notice you're not there," he said. "That's the point," I replied. But as the day got closer, I couldn't stop this weird ache in my chest. Not guilt, something softer, like mourning. I kept remembering being a kid, watching from the hallway, while Mom and Dad cheered for James's little league games, even when his team lost 10-0. How they'd ruffle his hair and say, "It's okay, buddy, we're proud of you." Meanwhile, my art competition ribbons sat in a drawer. No fridge display, no bragging to relatives, just quiet, polite indifference. So yeah, maybe part of me wanted them to hurt a little. Not out of spite, but because I needed proof they could even feel something when it came to me. 2 nights before the cruise, Mom called. "You got your boarding pass yet?" "Not yet," I lied easily. "I'll handle it tomorrow." Okay, sweetheart, don't forget, James said he wants to do the dolphin excursion on day 3, so you'll need cash for that. I almost laughed. He wanted. I'd bet money they were paying for his excursions too. When the day came, I watched their Instagram stories from Tyler's couch, the matching outfits, the fancy buffet, James holding up a cocktail with a stupid grin. The caption read, "Family time? So grateful." My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Where are you? The ship's about to leave. Please tell me you're not running late." I just typed back, "Didn't book my ticket." Spending Thanksgiving elsewhere. 10 minutes later, she called. Then Dad. Then James. I didn't pick up. Tyler looked at me, half nervous, half proud. "You okay?" I smiled, for real this time. "Yeah, I think I finally am." The first call came 20 minutes after the ship left the dock. I didn't answer. Then came the second, third, fourth. All Mom. When I finally looked, there were 5 missed calls and a new text from her that said, "Unbelievable, Lily. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? We're all so embarrassed. Everyone's been asking where you are." I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Then another message popped up. "Your father says this is petty and hurtful. James is very upset." James. Of course. I pictured him standing beside them, probably pretending to care while sipping another free drink. The same man-child who hadn't paid rent in years and still got treated like a war hero. Now he was upset because I hadn't shown up to play background character in his vacation slideshow. Tyler saw my face and gently took my phone. "You don't have to read that crap," he said. But I did. I couldn't not. Every word was another twist of the knife. Proof that no matter what I did, succeed, fail, disappear, I was always the problem. An hour later, Dad sent his own message. "You really disappointed your mother. We tried to do something nice for everyone, and you made it about yourself. You should apologize when we get back." It was like they were all reading from the same emotional script. "You've disappointed us. You've made it about yourself." There was no space for me to exist outside of their expectations. By day 2, the tone changed. Mom started sending me photos. Her way of guilt tripping with a smile. One of James posing with a drink, captioned, "Wish you were here." Another of the sunset, "We saved you a spot at dinner." Then the kicker, a selfie of all 3 of them with the message, "Family isn't perfect, but we stick together." That one made my hands shake, because that was the thing. We didn't stick together, they only stuck together for James. Always James. I was just the invisible orbiting planet, tolerated as long as I didn't make waves. By day 3, Mom's messages turned passive-aggressive again. "James said he's worried about you. He's trying so hard to hold his family together, and you're making it difficult. You should think about how this makes us look." That last one hit harder than it should have. How this makes us look. Not how I felt, not what led me to stay behind. Just appearances. Always appearances. Tyler's mom noticed me zoning out at dinner and asked gently, "Rough family stuff?" I nodded. "They're mad I didn't go on the cruise." She set her fork down. "Sweetheart, if they can't handle one missed vacation without making you feel guilty, they were looking for an excuse to be mad." It was the first time in years someone had called me sweetheart without making it sound like an insult. That night, as Tyler dozed off on the couch beside me, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. One from years ago, me and James as kids on the porch, holding melting popsicles. He's smiling, I'm halfway out of frame. Mom must have taken it. She'd probably cropped me out for the fridge version. I started to cry. Not the big, ugly sobs, just quiet tears that burned like salt. Because this wasn't about one cruise. It was about every time they'd made it clear I was extra. Optional. A footnote to their family story. Then, at 2:14 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A message from James. "You're being dramatic. Mom's been crying all night because of you. You should be ashamed." For once, I didn't just put the phone down. I typed back, "Tell Mom to save her tears. I'm just finally giving her what she wanted. A vacation with her favorite kid." I hit send before I could overthink it. He didn't reply. For the first time in my life, I didn't regret something I said to James. I just stared at the screen after sending that text, half expecting him to unleash the usual torrent. The insults, the guilt trips. But he didn't. Just silence. And that silence somehow was louder than any of the messages before it. The next morning, I woke up to 10 missed calls, all from Mom, and a voicemail that made my stomach turn. Her voice was sharp, brittle, like she'd been crying, but was furious about it. "I can't believe you'd humiliate us like this, Lily. People keep asking where you are. James has been trying to keep the peace, but you're so stubborn. You always have to make everything difficult. I hope you're proud of yourself." Proud. Yeah, proud. I played it on speaker for Tyler while I made coffee. He shook his head. "She's not even mad about you missing the trip. She's mad she can't control you anymore." That hit harder than I expected. Because he was right. By the 4th day of the cruise, I started getting messages from extended family. My aunt, my cousin Laura, even my grandmother. All variations of the same thing. "Your mom's really hurt. Maybe you should apologize." It's not that big a deal. I didn't respond to any of them. I could see Mom's fingerprints all over those texts. Her favorite trick, weaponizing sympathy. Then came James again. This time, not a text. A voice message. I hesitated before playing it. His voice was slurred, probably drunk. "You're seriously messed up, you know that? Mom's been crying. Dad's pissed. You ruined this whole trip just because you couldn't pay for your own damn ticket. You always act like a victim. Maybe that's why nobody wants to be around you. Something in me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Like the sound a frozen lake makes before it gives way. I didn't throw my phone or scream or cry. I just sat there, completely still, and let the words sink in. Maybe that's why nobody wants to be around you. Tyler came into the room, holding his car keys. Hey, he said gently. We're still going to my parents later, right? I nodded. Yeah. Let's go. The drive was quiet. I watched the trees blur past, thinking about all the times I'd bit my tongue to keep the peace, every Sunday dinner where James got praise for existing, and I got polite nods. Every, we're so proud of you, James, followed by my mom's vague, Lily's doing fine. Every emotional bruise I convinced myself wasn't that bad. By the time we pulled up to Tyler's parents' house, I felt like I'd shed something. Like the version of me that used to shrink around them had finally peeled off. Dinner was loud, messy, imperfect, and full of warmth. Tyler's mom kept refilling my plate even when I said I was full. His dad told terrible jokes. His little sister showed me a sweater she was knitting. It wasn't fancy, but it was real. Meanwhile, my phone kept lighting up in the corner of the table, buzzing like an angry hornet. I ignored it. Until I didn't. When I finally checked it that night, there were 53 unread messages. The group chat was chaos. Mom accusing me of ruining the holiday. Dad calling me selfish. James adding sarcastic gifs. Then a new message popped up from Mom again. I can't believe you do this to your brother. He's been having a hard time lately and needed this trip to relax. You couldn't even let him have that. That one made me laugh out loud. Actually laugh. Tyler leaned over my shoulder and read it. She's using your brother's laziness as a moral shield, he said. Classic manipulation. He wasn't wrong. And that's when it hit me. They weren't just angry I skipped the cruise. They were angry because I'd broken my role. I wasn't the quiet, accommodating daughter anymore. I'd stopped feeding the machine that kept their little dynamic running. So I did something I'd never done before. I turned my phone off. And that's when the messages started coming to Tyler's number instead. Update. Hi again. Didn't think I'd be posting so soon, but I woke up this morning to over 100 messages from random relatives. Clearly my parents have been on a campaign tour while still mid-cruise. Apparently I'm ungrateful, mentally unstable, and lashing out for attention. My aunt even posted a Facebook status about how some kids forget who raised them. But here's the twist. A few people reached out privately, cousins, even one of my mom's old friends, saying they get it. That they've watched the favoritism for years but never said anything because that's just how your mom is. So I'm not crazy. I'm not imagining it. I'm just the first one to finally say no. And as I sat there reading those quiet little messages of support, I realized maybe that's my revenge. Not rage, not yelling, just finally being the one who walks away. Still, I have a feeling they're not done yet. They got back the Sunday after Thanksgiving. I knew because my phone started vibrating nonstop around noon. First from an unknown number, Mom's hotel Wi-Fi calling probably. Then from Dad's office line. I didn't answer either. I just sat on the couch sipping my coffee, waiting. It was like the quiet before a storm you've lived through 1,000 times, but this time you're ready to let it hit. At 1:14 p.m., a text came through from Mom. We're home. I expect to see you this evening so we can talk about your behavior. Behavior. Like I was still 15 and grounded for missing curfew. Tyler raised an eyebrow when I showed him. You're not going, right? I'm going, I said, setting down my mug. Just not the way they expect. The drive to my parents' house felt like driving back into an old nightmare. Same over-manicured lawn, same wreath on the door with the Parker's Mile Family First, etched across the wood. The irony almost made me laugh. Mom answered the door, her smile as fake as the pearls around her neck. So you did decide to show up, she said, voice tight. Hi, Mom, I said, walking past her into the house. Nice trip? She blinked like she wasn't prepared for politeness. Dad was in his recliner, arms crossed, remote still in his hand. James was sprawled on the couch, looking smug, sunburned, and still wearing his cruise wristband like it was a trophy. Do you have any idea, Mom started, how humiliating it was having to explain to everyone why our daughter couldn't be bothered to show up for family time? I shrugged. Maybe tell them I was tired of paying to watch the same show every year. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means, I said calmly, you treat James like a guest of honor, and me like the hired help. Always have. James rolled his eyes. Oh, here we go. James, not now, Mom snapped. No, let him talk, I said, turning to him. You always seem to have something to say when I'm not around. Say it to me. He smirked. You're jealous. You always have been. Just because Mom and Dad actually like me. Dad slammed his hand on the armrest. Enough. Lily, we don't need the drama. You made your choice. You missed the trip. You hurt your mother. I took a slow breath. I didn't hurt her. I disappointed her. And that's only a problem because she still thinks I exist to make her proud of something. Silence. The kind that makes the air thick. Then Mom did what she always does when she's cornered. She started to cry. Except it wasn't real crying. No tears, just heavy breathing and a trembling voice. I don't know what we did to deserve this, she said, glancing toward James for backup. We've only ever tried to support both our children equally. That was the moment I actually laughed. Out loud. Equally? You paid for James's ticket, his rent, his car, his everything. And I was supposed to buy my own way just to be tolerated. You call that equal? Dad stood up. You have a good job, Lily. James doesn't. He needs us. There it was, the golden phrase. He needs us more. I repeated it slowly. You've said that since I was 12, and maybe that was true once, but you've confused need with deserve. Dad's face went red. Watch your tone. No, I said quietly. You watch how you talk to your daughter. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just stood there, perfectly calm, and for the first time in my life, they didn't know what to do with me. James mumbled something under his breath. Drama queen, or psycho, I couldn't tell, and walked into the kitchen. He opened the fridge, grabbed a beer, and slammed the door so hard a magnet fell off. I looked at the photo it had been holding. A shot from the cruise, all three of them smiling in the sunlight, arms around each other. Family. I picked up the magnet, snapped it clean in half, and set it on the counter. Enjoy your vacation photos, I said. That's the last time you'll get one with me in it. Then I walked out. Back in the car, Tyler looked over. You okay? Yeah, I said. But they're not. He smiled a little. That's new. As we pulled out of the driveway, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom, long and rambling about disrespect and regret. I didn't even read it. I just hit block. And that's when the idea came to me. The quiet, perfect way to end this game once and for all. Not out of anger, out of clarity. They wanted to play favorites? Fine. I'd show them what it looked like when the unfavored one stopped playing entirely. I didn't block James. Not yet. I wanted him to see what it looked like when I stopped being the safety net. When you grow up being the responsible one, you become everyone's default emergency contact, the reliable number in their phone. That's how my parents treated me. That's how James used me too. 2 days after that confrontation, he called. Not to apologize, of course not. He wanted help. Hey, he said casually, like nothing had happened. My car won't start. Think you can swing by and give me a ride to Dad's office? He said I could use the truck while he's working. I actually laughed. You do realize you insulted me and called me dramatic 3 days ago, right? He sighed like I was being childish. Lily, come on, don't make this harder than it is. That phrase, don't make this harder, it was like deja vu. Every argument with Mom, every guilt trip with Dad, every time I'd been expected to quietly absorb their disrespect. But something about hearing it from James that morning made everything inside me settle. Not rage, not pain, just clarity. No problem, I said sweetly. I'll come by. When I got to my parents' house, his old Honda was sitting crooked in the driveway with the hood up. He was inside scrolling on his phone like it was beneath him to even attempt to fix it. You're a lifesaver, he said, not even looking up. Mom said, James, I interrupted. Do you ever listen to yourself? He blinked, confused. What? You treat people like background extras in your movie. Mom and Dad let you, so you never noticed. But here's the thing, I'm not in your cast anymore. I tossed his keys onto the dashboard. Your battery's dead. You'll need to call a tow. Then I walked away. I didn't yell, didn't slam anything. I just left him there, standing in the driveway, staring after me like I'd just spoken a language he didn't understand. Over the next week, I made some quiet changes. Small things, but they added up. I told the post office to stop forwarding any stray mail from my parents' address. I removed myself from the family phone plan they kept me on, for convenience. I even took down the one framed family photo I still had, me, Mom, Dad, and James, on a beach when I was 13, and replaced it with a picture of Tyler and me hiking last spring. In that photo, I'm actually smiling. Not polite, not posed, real. Every act felt like reclaiming a piece of oxygen. And then, the revenge part, if you can call it that, found me. Tyler's company was hosting a local charity gala, and he asked if I wanted to come. Normally, I would have said no. But the event was raising money for youth mentorship programs, and the guest list included a ton of people from our town, including my parents. I didn't plan to see them. I didn't even think they'd notice me. But they did. Mom froze mid-conversation when she spotted me walking in with Tyler. I saw the flicker of something cross her face. Surprise, confusion, maybe a little fear. I wasn't the quiet daughter she could talk over anymore. I was confident, smiling, present. We didn't speak that night, but the look on her face was enough. For once, I was the one surrounded by people, laughing, comfortable, belonging. And they were on the outside watching. The next morning, my cousin Laura texted me. Aunt Marlene seemed really shaken last night. She kept saying you looked so different, like you finally had a life without them. That was the sweetest kind of revenge. No screaming, no scorched earth. Just letting them see what life looks like when their golden child isn't the center anymore. Still, I knew they'd try again. My mom doesn't know how to lose quietly. Update 2. So yeah, a lot's happened. Since the gala, Mom's been on what I can only describe as an emotional PR tour, calling relatives, spinning the narrative that I've been brainwashed by Tyler, and cut the family off for attention. My uncle texted to check in because he heard I was struggling. But the part that made me laugh out loud, she apparently told everyone I stormed out of the cruise planning out of jealousy for James. Jealous of a 30-year-old who lives in their basement and calls Uber Eats a life skill. The wild thing is, I don't even care anymore. For the first time in my entire life, I don't need them to understand. Mom can rewrite the story however she wants, but she'll never be able to change the ending. I finally chose myself. 2 weeks passed before the next storm hit. I'd been sleeping better, eating better, lighter somehow, like I'd dropped 20 invisible pounds of obligation. But peace never lasts long when your family thrives on control. It started with a text from my dad. Your brother is in trouble. We need to talk. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. A few hours later, Mom called, her voice tight. James's car got repossessed, she said. He's really upset. He said you stopped helping him with bills. I had to bite back a laugh. I never started helping him with bills, Mom. You did. Well, he said you used to drive him places when he needed help. And now he's 30 years old with 2 working legs and Uber. Silence. Then that familiar sigh, the one that always meant, you're being selfish again, Lily. Mom finally said, we raised you to be compassionate. Family helps family. Family doesn't mean being someone's unpaid chauffeur, I said. Maybe it's time he learns to help himself. She hung up on me. 2 days later, I got a Facebook notification, a tagged post from James. It was a photo of him sitting at a bar, middle finger up, captioned, some people are only family until they're done using you. I didn't comment, didn't message him, didn't even untag myself. I just left it there, a public tantrum preserved for everyone to see. But that was the beginning of their unraveling. By the end of that week, Mom started calling Tyler instead of me. She tried the concerned act first. I'm just worried about Lily. She's been so distant. But when Tyler didn't bite, she dropped the mask. You're turning her against us, she hissed. Tyler, bless him, just said, no ma'am, you did that yourselves, then hung up. That's when things got ugly. I came home from work one Friday evening to find a bouquet of wilting roses on my doorstep. No note, just a plain white envelope tucked underneath. I opened it. Inside was a photo of me from the gala, smiling with Tyler. On the back, someone had written in black marker, you've changed, not for the better. It wasn't signed, but I didn't need to guess. Mom had that handwriting. Perfect cursive, angry pressure marks, deep enough to dent the paper. I showed it to Tyler. He looked furious, then worried. You sure you're okay? I'm fine, I said. This is what happens when people lose their favorite scapegoat. Still, it rattled me more than I wanted to admit. The idea that my own mother had printed a photo off social media just to send it as some weird emotional threat, it was twisted, even for her. But karma works quietly sometimes. A week later, my cousin Laura texted again. Your mom had a meltdown at Sunday dinner. She and your dad were yelling because James asked for money again. Apparently, your dad finally told him to get a job. She stormed out crying. I read that message 3 times, barely breathing. My dad, the man who used to defend James no matter what, finally snapped. That was when I realized my absence had become its own kind of mirror. Without me there to absorb the blame, they were forced to look at themselves. And they didn't like what they saw. Later that night, Tyler and I were sitting on the balcony with takeout when my phone buzzed again. It was James. No insults this time, just 3 words. They're fighting bad. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could have said I told you so. I could have ignored it completely. But I just typed, maybe it's time they learn. How that feels. He didn't reply. When I finally went to bed, I lay there staring at the ceiling, a strange mix of peace and sadness flooding through me. I didn't want revenge anymore. I'd already gotten it, just by walking away. Still, part of me wondered if I'd ever be able to forgive them. Not for the cruise or the favoritism or the guilt. For the way they made me believe, for 25 years, that love was something you had to earn. And maybe that's what freedom really feels like. Not joy, not relief. Just finally not needing their version of love anymore. A month passed before the next call came. It was Dad this time. I saw his name flash on the screen while I was folding laundry. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel that automatic jolt of guilt. I just let it ring out. When the voicemail notification popped up, I waited a minute before pressing play. His voice sounded older, defeated in a way I'd never heard. Lily, your mother isn't doing well. She's been crying a lot. James moved out after another fight. I'm not asking you to fix anything. I just don't know what to do anymore. I sat down on the edge of the bed and stared at the carpet, not doing well. The phrase should have pulled me right back into the old role, the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who patched things up when the golden boy or the emotional storm tore through the house. But it didn't. I felt sad, sure, but not responsible. Tyler came in from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. Everything okay? I handed him the phone. He listened to the message once, then looked at me carefully. What do you want to do? I don't know, I said. Part of me wants to drive over there. Part of me wants to pretend the call never happened. He nodded. You don't owe them anything. But you also don't have to carry hate forever either. That night, I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about how many years I'd wasted trying to earn their approval. like love was a prize at the end of a marathon they never intended to let me finish. I thought about that little girl waiting in the hallway while they cheered for James, and how badly she'd wanted someone to notice her. By morning, I knew what I needed to do, not for them, but for her. I drove to my parents' house around noon. The front yard looked the same, but the energy felt different, quieter, heavier. When Mom opened the door, she looked smaller, eyes red, hair unbrushed. For the first time in my life, she didn't have that practiced smile ready. "Lily," she said softly, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to use my name anymore. "I heard from Dad," I said. "He said things have been rough." She nodded, lip trembling. "James left. He took the truck, said he needed space. We haven't heard from him in a week." I wanted to say, of course he did, but instead I just stood there. She motioned for me to come in, but I stayed on the porch. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly, "for the way things turned out. I never meant to hurt you." The old me would have jumped at that, desperate to smooth it over. But now, I just nodded. "You did hurt me," I said quietly, "and I think you meant to, sometimes. Maybe not out of hate, just habit. You didn't know any other way." Tears welled in her eyes. "Can we fix it?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I think we can start by not pretending everything's fine." She looked like she wanted to hug me, but I wasn't ready for that. I told her maybe we could have coffee sometime soon, somewhere neutral. She nodded like she'd just been handed a lifeline. When I walked back to the car, I felt lighter again. Not because everything was forgiven, but because I said the truth out loud and didn't crumble. That night, Tyler and I sat on the balcony, city lights flickering below. I told him about the visit, about how strange it felt to finally see my mother not as the villain of my story, but as a person who'd built her world around keeping one son afloat and forgot she had another child, learning how to swim alone. "So what now?" he asked. "I don't know," I said, smiling a little. "Maybe nothing. Maybe I just keep living. I've spent my whole life waiting for them to love me the way I needed. Maybe it's time I start loving myself that way instead." He reached for my hand. "That sounds like the right kind of ending." I looked out at the lights, at the quiet freedom that had taken me 25 years to earn. For once, I didn't feel like the forgotten daughter, just someone finally, fully her own person.